Welcome, ladies. Not just me. So, whilst my amazing panel sit down, just going to give a bit of an intro. I hope you're all strapped in, because this is going to be bold, brave. I mean, if you guys don't know these amazing ladies, you're about to be taken on a fantastic fucking journey. I know, we have got tiny little seats. We have got, oh no, you have not. She just said she's got a big bum. She's got a beautiful bum and an even more beautiful bump. So, we are going to be talking about the different things that we face as women throughout our lives and careers that sadly fucking set us back. I'm going to steal this from Vodafone, who I heard. What are you laughing at? Have I done something? Okay, fine. So as women, we obviously face some, various different things that do sadly set us back in our careers, but they don't have to. And I think that's what we're going to discuss today, is how they don't have to, and the kind of things we can do as businesses and people to make sure they don't fucking set us back anymore. I'm stealing this from a lady I spoke to last night at a Fringe event dinner we did for my lovely client Contentful, who are here somewhere, I think. Lovely Laura, wherever you are. Yes. Sorry, I am stealing this. I'm not claiming it's my own. She said, isn't it fucking funny that the shit things that happen to us in our lives all begin with men? Menopause, menstruation. I was like, isn't that fucking true? And the men have no fucking idea about it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Sorry, guys. Also, I really want more men in here. I bumped into someone earlier, and I mentioned this to Jodie, so thank you, Jodie, for coming, that he was like, can I come into the female leaders bar? I thought it was only for women. I was like, no. The whole fucking point is we need more men in this room. So if you're a man or a woman and you see a man and there's an interesting talk, please fucking bring them in, because we need them to listen. Right, I'm going to try and shut up, which I'm not particularly good at, and I'm hoping we're not going to go too far over. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, because you're always going to do a much better job than I am, but I'll kind of intro you. So the lovely Sedge. Sedge, well, tell us what you've been up to.
Hi, I'm Sedge. I will caveat that anything that I am going to say on this panel is very old school Twitter version, but it is the views and the opinions and the experiences that I went through, nothing to do with the business that I may have founded and no longer am part of. I am currently consultant, advisor, and I founded an influencer agency called Scene Connects that I exited. And now just having great fun being a mom and about to pop my second, which seems to be the theme, because everyone seems to be pregnant in here too.
Love that. And we're going to dig into Sedge's experiences around that. So I'm going to just get everyone to introduce themselves quickly, and then I'm going to go map back.
Pregnancy, another thing that starts with men. My name's Amelia Sordell. I am a personal branding strategist and a LinkedIn top voice, and I run a personal branding agency called Klowt, and we build personal brands. So yeah.
I'm Lyall, and I co-founded a business called the Better Menopause. We're just 12 months old, so we're very new. And prior to that, I worked in media and marketing for 25 years.
Very excited. I feel like I'm on a journey learning about menopause so much right now. I'm not quite there yet, but I feel like knowledge is power, and I'm learning what I'm going to get, coming to me in the next few years. So thank you, Joanna. Right, I want to start with some really kind of scary stats. I'm not a big one for having things printed out, but these are pretty scary. So 43% of highly qualified senior women choose to leave or have to leave their career at some point. 24% of them don't ever come back to work, and that's because they've had a baby or they have a family. Mums are also 18% less likely to be promoted than their non-parent counterparts, that regardless of their male or women. And on average, they earn 4% less. So that that's against men and women that just don't have kids. 27% of mums work part-time. Only 6% of dads work part-time. So for me, those are pretty shocking stats when it comes to why can you not have a baby and continue your career? It seems mad to me. I want to start by coming to you, Sedge, because, of course, you have scaled and sold an amazing business all whilst being pregnant. Can you talk to me about some of the challenges that you faced and the outcome?
Yeah, so I had an influencer agency, and we went through really incredible fast growth, and off the back of the GOAT deal, we received an amazing offer for our agency of 24.4 mil. And it was all systems go. We were selling the business to a private equity firm, and when I was about 6 weeks pregnant, we were negotiating the heads of terms, and I honestly was like, fuck, what do I do here? Because for me, the right thing was absolutely, I want to place all of my cards on the table, but I also want a backer for the business in a really female-dominated industry to support and champion women who also want to have families. So I was actually in the US for 4 months setting up our US arm, and I obviously on Zoom could have very easily hidden the fact that I was pregnant. I paid a lot of money in America because I obviously don't have healthcare over there. But I got my 12-week scan, and everything was good. My daughter is here. She's fucking mental. She's ace. And I decided to tell I had told our advisors first, and there was just this fear, complete and utter panic. And I was like, fucking morons. I just got married. Like, it was pretty inevitable and obvious. And actually, in the process, I was saying to my existing investors, like, I really want to start a family. And they were like, just don't talk about that to anyone. Don't talk about it anywhere to any single person because this deal might fall over. And as it happens, the deal did fall over. It took me the entire pregnancy where they chipped the price twice, and I was 2 weeks before my due date. And then it was kind of like, well, we've got this far down the line. Sedge is just going to sign everything, and she's just going to say yes. And one of the guys from the PE houses that was buying us is, to this day, a very good friend of mine. And he had kids, and I rung him on a Saturday, and I was like, I can't do this. There is not a single part of me that can do it for my family. Me and my husband never argue, and we were arguing like fucking mad. I can't do it to my unborn child because I was having so many extra scans because I was so stressed. I was getting like 4 hours sleep because I was doing crisis plans of like, if I was to die in childbirth, what would happen to the succession plan of the business, which was being briefed into me at like 11 p.m. And that was just a real big awakening for me of like, this just shouldn't be how it is. And in the UK, 1% of VCs in 2022 were backed by female-led businesses, and 87 were all male-founded businesses. And that was the kind of like alarm bell for me of like, I understand why this is happening, and there is such a shift that has to change. So I pulled out of the deal, got told I was a silly girl by our advisors, which I called him a prick. I did ask for it in writing, but unfortunately he wouldn't put it in writing. And I went back to work after 4 months, which was probably the stupidest thing that I've ever done. But I had an immense amount of pressure and fear because I had kind of got right up to the finishing line of maternity where I was the whole way through going, I have a hard deadline. And then all of a sudden, I just mic dropped and wasn't in the business. And I was on call getting stupid messages because I never really had the opportunity to do a proper handover, to build out the right senior structure, to enable me to take some time out. And I kept getting called that I was sitting on the bench whilst I was on maternity, which really fucked me off. But yeah, I went back after 4 months and then decided this isn't right for me. Like, I have my daughter and I want to be able to be there and to spend time with her and to not be schlepping back and forth from Shoreditch or going to New York or whatever it might be. And it was the hardest but absolutely best decision I've ever made.
What a fucking shit show, though. Let's be honest. I mean, there's no hiding that most VCs, most investors are men, so they don't fucking understand the challenges that we go through as women. And actually, Joanna's one of your co-founders and investors, Debbie Wasco, has launched with the government the biggest fund for female-funded businesses in the UK, backed by women, for women, that the government have invested. It was launched in May, £2 million, I think they've put into it. So if you want to launch a business, guys, now's the time to do it. Go and apply for that funding. Do follow Debbie Wasco. She talks about a lot of this stuff online as well. I'm actually, sorry now, Joanna, I'm not going to come to you. I'm actually going to come to Amelia. So, Amelia, you have got young kids. You've launched a business. You've got divorced.
I have.
We've been talking about your dating earlier, which is
Mazel.
great fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not going to talk about our dating. We were just talking about that before. You do not want to know about my dating. It is tragic.
Well, it's a lot more fun than mine right now, I can tell you that. But talk to me, as a woman founding her business, running a business with 2 young kids, because you just had kids when you launched Klowt. Talk to us a bit about your journey and the kind of things that you've encountered.
Yeah, I think I just want to, before I get into that, I want to just touch on something that you said about going back to work 4 months after you had your daughter. When I first had my first child, also a daughter who was also fucking mental, congrats to all of us. I was only I think 3 months postpartum, and I didn't go back because with my son. I didn't want to go back because I wanted to. I went back because I was under pressure from my then employer, who told me that I was going to get left behind if I didn't go back. And that was off the record, of course, but I'm sure there's many people in this room who are parents or mothers who have faced I can see lots of nodding heads, who have had off the record conversations with their employers and people within their kind of career who've kind of made them feel like if they don't go back to work and they don't spend time with their kids, that they are in some way going to be left behind. Let me tell you what I wish someone had told me, which is you are doing the most important job that anyone will ever do in the existence of this entire Earth, humanity. You're raising the next generation of people, and there should be nothing, if you choose to, that comes between that and your job. Like, you shouldn't have to choose. So, yeah, number one. Back to my feral children. So I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And when I first founded Klowt, it's a very Amelia-esque style to quit a job on a Friday, start a business on a Monday, decide to leave my ex-husband like 2 months later, buy him out, like all of the things at once. And looking back, I had what I can only describe as like a real chip on my shoulder, where I had to prove to everyone in the world that I can do this by myself and I don't need help. And, you know, I will put in the yards and I'll work and I'll be able to do the school pickup and I'll still make sure the bills are paid and all those kinds of things. And I think part of me felt like I needed to do it on my own for my kind of internal, I guess, pressure. But the other, objectively looking back at it now, I think the other reason why I felt like I had to do it on my own is because there is no help. I didn't have anyone to say, like, you do realize you don't need to work until 2 o'clock in the morning and, like, it will be okay. And, like, you know, it's all right if you miss a school day, or it's all right if you don't go to that client meeting because you have to pick your kids up. And I feel like I sacrificed a huge amount of time. And I've posted about this on LinkedIn. I've been very, very honest about it. I was not the best mum for the first 3 years of my business because I chose the business over what gave me joy, because I thought that was the right decision to make, which is, I know we've spoken at length about this. You felt a similar way. Now looking back on it, I am really, really lucky to be in a place where I can go and do sports day and all of those things. And a big part of that is because I did make all of those sacrifices, unfortunately, in the first 3 years. But the other part of me looks at it and goes, well, why did I have to do that? Couldn't I have just done both? And I think there needs to be more discussion about this, because, you know, it's not just about kids, it's also about living, right? Like, you don't have to have children to have to get to live your life. You should be able to enjoy your life and run a business and have a career and have a chaotic dating life and whatever else you want to do at the same time. You shouldn't have to choose. And for me, that's the most important thing, I think, looking back, is like, I wish someone had said, you don't have to do one or the other, you can do both.
Mum guilt is real, though. You've literally just reminded me this morning. So this is me in a fucking teacup. My daughter phoned me and was like, she's upset about something. And I was like, can I call you back, darling? I've got to do this. I've got to get to... And I've forgotten to fucking phone her back. And I literally, I'm just listening to you thinking, yet again, I have prioritised work above my... And it's really, I really have to check in with myself about that. Like, it's literally just giving me, like, tingles now. Because I'm like, she absolutely should be my priority. And in my head, I'm like, I'm doing this for her. All the work I do is for her because we get to go on lovely holidays and do all these amazing things. But sometimes I guess, you know, that's the alpha part of me or whatever. Like, I'm like, I will succeed. I am doing this. I just forget, which is really shit. So, like, I should not be forgetting my daughter. And I'm really happy to have these conversations because it reminds me to check in with myself and be a good mum.
We all do that, though. It's not just with children. We do it with our friends. Yeah. We do it with our family. We do it with our mums, our dads, our siblings. Every single woman in this room will be prioritizing everything other than what actually makes them happy to a certain degree. And I think society raises us that way. And actually, I'm kind of fucking had enough of it, to be honest. I want to live my life and do what the fuck I want to do and not feel guilty for it. So, yeah.
Let's make that happen today, ladies. So, menopause. Am I really tight on time? Probably, yes. Yes, I'm okay. Menopause. Now, there are some shocking stats out there. First one, 30% of women consider leaving work because of their really severe menopause symptoms that they experience during menopause. 10% of them actually do and never retire early. just because of the menopause symptoms. Amelia shouted out earlier a really cool thing that happened. But I'm going to actually, the ASOS did, but we're going to talk about that in a minute because Sedge has got an interesting opinion. But Joanna, can you talk to us about menopause, what happens, the kind of changes and things that we can do as businesses and people to stop so many women exiting?
Yeah, gosh, how long have I got? So menopause is quite a complex and long experience. So it could be a decade of your life that you're experiencing changes in your body that are related to hormones. And the biggest challenge is it's hard to recognize. So it starts often with anxiety. So you'll see women in their early 40s that have never experienced anxiety before, and this was me. Never been an anxious person, always been like high achiever, senior jobs, confident. On the outside, I'm a swan, and under the water, those legs are going. And then as the hormones start to decline, this anxiety kind of crept in. And I've seen this time and time again with the women that I speak to in my community every day and how they're feeling. And we came up with a strap line for the business, which was "Feel Like You Again," because that is really what I was being told again and again by every woman I spoke to. And menopause can edge away at your sense of who you are, whether it's your body changing, your confidence dropping, anxiety increasing, your sleep going out the window. Your ability to exercise can change because your joints can ache, your body hurts, everything changes. And on the outside, you might still look like you to everybody else. And I'm sorry this sounds like a really shit thing because it is actually, it's not great, but 25% of people apparently have no symptoms at all. So, never know, might be in that lucky camp. But for some, it's really debilitating, and it is a real range at the different ends of the spectrum. So in terms of what can companies do, I think first of all it is about recognizing it. So if you have a woman in your business that has been amazing for her whole career and suddenly she just doesn't seem like herself, just think about what might be going on and why that might be happening. And also bear in mind that this is usually women at the peak of their career, they're the peak of their experience, they've got so much to give and so much to offer, but they've also possibly got children, and they can be older children at that point. My children are now nearly 10 and 12, and they need you in a different way. It's not like when they're babies and they physically need you, they need you to talk to them. So they're demanding your time and attention. You might have parents that are aging or ill, and they need your time and attention. So that woman is being pulled in so many directions. So I think it's really first of all about companies understanding that, understanding who she is, what's going on for her, and how you can best support and help her. And that's going to be really different for every type of industry and business, from kind of uniforms to flexibility to just giving them access to menopause specialists and doctors as well, because they don't really exist enough in the National Health Service, unfortunately.
I mean, it's just a conversation that needs to happen, right? I feel like menopause is being talked about a lot more. I'm sure we all know that. But, I mean, like I said, everything affects us. Menstruation. I mean, who here has, goes a bit mental when they're just before they're on their period or around their period or after? This is going to be, and it's not guys' fault. We don't talk about it openly enough. I think having these conversations so people understand, your colleagues understand, okay, yeah, not saying we go a bit mental, but we kind of do, or I do anyway. In fact, I take the mini pill now to stop having periods, so that because I have endometriosis, so I don't go mental anymore. But I think it's just about talking and being open and sharing between us as much as we can, so that we give businesses and people the power to put policies in place to help us. And that could be as much as having some kind of monthly community group. There's so many different options here. Now, what I do want to dial into is a policy that someone made, but we think might be a bit of a bullshit policy, which did sound good. So Amelia mentioned earlier that one of her best performing LinkedIn posts, and by the way, if you don't follow Amelia, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you do because the room is quite full. She is a LinkedIn legend and influencer in her own right, but one of her best performing posts was about ASOS launching a menopause policy, which it was a bit like a maternity policy that gave women the opportunity to have full pay time off when they hit menopause or got menopause symptoms. However, Sedge, who's worked at ASOS, I'm sorry, really, I don't know whether you're happy to share this, but has
you've
another
made
idea.
it way more dramatic than I was
know,
saying
sorry.
earlier. all for the effect here on the panel. No, but I will bring it back to maternity. Like, I was the first person to return to my business from maternity. And when I came back, my first week, my first couple of weeks were horrific. I was crying. These poor kids in my team who were 24, 25 were just seeing milk pouring out on my tits because I'd put myself in back-to-back meetings, and I was emailing HR being like, am I allowed to pump in the office? Where can I pump in the office? Is it weird if I store my milk in the office? And I didn't have the answer to any of these questions because I'd never been through it as someone who owned a business. And my point with the ASOS policy is fantastic. More businesses should have paid for leave whilst you're going on menopause. But my point with ASOS was the average, and this might have changed, but when I was there, and I was there for 5 years, the average age of employee was 23. So often you can put these policies in place because they don't actually really touch your employee, and actually it can be this PR piece that makes you look great. And I came back and I had really painful meetings with our investors. Connects, my old business that says all my views and all my opinions and nothing to do with them, please don't sue me, I changed the maternity policy that it was 3 months full pay, 3 months at 75%, 3 months at 50%, and the rest statutory, because it's fucking hard. And the biggest barrier to going back to work is the cost of childcare. I'm lucky, I can afford to send my child for £95 a day to nursery. Most people can't. And that was more my point with don't get the press stories for the right reasons. Understand the age of your employee and make sure that the business is set up to really, really support them, not in the hope that in 2030 you'll know the stats of how old the average person goes through menopause. It's not the same based on that ASOS age profile. No one sue me.
Yeah.
Point to that as well. And offering, paid menopause leave. I'm not even sure what that means, because bear in mind I said it could be a decade of your life. What, are we taking off our 40s? Could be good. If it's a fully paid holiday, brilliant. But it 4 weeks. Yeah. I think again, did they have why did they put that in place? Was it a good thing to be doing at the time from a press and PR point of view, or did they really think about how can I help her stay in the business? Because that's the question, isn't it? And for maternity, it's how can I help her have a good maternity leave and return well? And they're the questions you've got to ask, not what's the statement that's going to make me look like a good employer. And I think sometimes we get a bit of that, don't we?
There's probably a bit of added context I can give about the post. So that particular policy that came out was in conjunction with a bunch of other policies that they released, one of which was people who are going through the adoption process, people who are going through miscarriage or baby loss or bereavement, and they released this kind of, pack of multiple policies. And the thing that I found interesting, and which is what my original post was about, was, I don't know ASOS, I've never worked for them, etc. But as an employer, I thought it was interesting that this pack of policies appeared to be great fucking PR, but also addressing the needs of individuals within a business so that they can bring their best self to work without having to worry about getting paid. And I won't mention his name because I don't want to kind of bring any unwanted attention to it, but I met a gentleman on the train this morning who was sat next to me and he was visibly crying. And I said, as very British as we all are, everyone fucking ignored him. And I turned to him, I said, are you okay? And he said, no, my wife's in the ICU and I'm worrying about paying bills. And, she went in last Thursday and I don't know when she's going to come out. We're meant to go on holiday tomorrow. And anyway, I had a really nice conversation with him for about half an hour on the way into Euston this morning. And it made me think about this, how many employers are thinking about that guy or that woman going through menopause or that woman coming back to work who's in a senior position and may or may not need to pump or whatever. How many businesses actually think about these things before they happen? And I'm definitely guilty as an employer of only putting a maternity policy in once, even though I have 2 fucking children, only once my employee became pregnant and we needed one. And I do think that is a wider societal problem of we all worry about us, but we don't ever think about anyone else. And I think there's a lesson in not just the policy, but the wider conversation of if every single one of us, including employers, including all of you, just thought 1% more about other people, we could completely change, not just the world of work for women, but the world completely, in its entirety.
Love that. Now, I am getting told off from the side of the stage. We should have had longer.
It's going to be one of those hooks that comes.
I know, get off. So for me, the biggest thing that we can do is speak the fuck up, share the stories. Like, honestly, we've all had, like, I just was thinking of some of the stuff Amelia was saying then. I've been having a miscarriage and been on fucking calls for work before because I didn't feel like it was appropriate to talk, like, for some reason it doesn't feel normal to talk about that stuff. We've got to fucking normalise it. We've got to speak up and don't be afraid to. And I think that's probably my final leaving comment. And thank you to my most awesome panel. What an amazing group of ladies.